Okay, so you've created your motivation page and now you know a little bit more as in what is your motivation behind teaching English. So before we get down to business, before I start giving you content to teach English, let's think about who is going to be your student. So till now in your life, you must have encountered a few set of people who would probably benefit from English knowledge. For example, an immigrant who owns a shop next door, or somebody who cleans the lawn, mows the lawn, or somebody like that. And if they had somebody teach them English, then they would really move on in life at a much faster pace. It would increase their income, give them better job opportunities and whatever else. So now is the time to think about 3 ideal student personas for your teaching. Think about 3 student types that you want to teach. For example, a student could be based on his profession. You got to think that's the easiest way to think about personas. So one of the student could be an immigrant worker, so that's one persona. The other student could be a nurse, somebody, let's say there's a nurse who came to your town from Thailand and she doesn't know English and she's still working in the hospital, so the nurse could be the second persona. The third persona could be a bus driver or something like that. So these are the ways in which you have to choose the personas. So at this stage there is not much use for choosing personas, but as we go on to the course, we are going to use them off and on to give you a more elaborate picture. So to help you understand the nuances of different lessons, we are going to come back to personas. We are going to help you create separate curriculum or separate sessions, separate lessons for different personas. So that way we are going to come back to these student personas, and probably in the future lectures we're just going to call them as students, your 3 chosen students. Okay, so now we are almost set to begin with teaching English, and as you know, there's no English without the alphabets. Okay, so you have to start with alphabets. So this whole course is about you are going to teach somebody English from scratch kind of a thing. So you don't assume that your student has any knowledge of English. So you have to start with the alphabets themselves. That's how it's going to be. So you're going to assume that your student doesn't know anything and you have to deal with the alphabets. Okay, so how are you going to do that? The alphabets, in your elementary school or whatever, you must have seen that the alphabets, they used to be followed by a generic word. For example, A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. So that kind of an approach has very limited application. So it's not universally good. It's only valid for teaching in schools and these kind of academic institutions wherein the student has a lot of time to learn. But if you want to really associate alphabets with simple words, then you have to think of relevant words for your student personas. For example, if your student says, let's say a nurse, then a nurse knows a little bit about the equipment which she uses in the hospital. So she knows about the stethoscopes, she knows about the napkins or sanitary kits or these kind of things. So that way you have to come up with customized words for each alphabets based on your student personas. Let me show you how you can do that. So let's go to your, okay, yeah, so we are on the second page. And as you can see, so I've already chosen 3 students or 3 student personas for myself. My first persona is an immigrant, the second one is a nurse, and the third one is a bus driver. Okay, so A, So now I have A. So think of a word which starts with A and is relevant to an immigrant. Can you think of something? Right now I can't think, so I'll just write A for apple. You think of a word which is relevant for nurse and which starts with an A. Apron, maybe? Yeah, okay, I just write them down. A bus driver. I can think of anything right now, so I'll just put apricot. So in similar way, you gotta think very broadly, and for B also you gotta think of a word which starts with, which is relevant for each of your students. So this way, how this list is going to help you is that once you meet the student, let's suppose you get a real chance to teach an immigrant, and you're, instead of, let's say, putting your A for apple, you actually are able to think about a word which is relevant for him, then the student would really catch up very fast on those words and those things. So that way you have to create your alphabet pages, say D and all these pages. So this thing is going to occupy 2 pages. And the other thing that you notice here is that I have left a line in between each of those words. So in the future also, if you think of a word which right now in a single sitting, probably it's not always possible to think of words which are relevant to your student personas, but you can always come back here once you get a word and just add that word here for a persona. Add more words here. It's not required that you just put 3 words. It could be 10 words, 3 for which are relevant for nurse, 1 for bus driver, 1 for an immigrant, and 2 are generic words relevant for everyone, like apple. Each one of those personas knows about an apple. Okay, so this kind of customized list is what you have to create now. So sit down, just I would suggest that you do it in a couple of sittings, not in a single sitting. So in your first sitting, whatever comes to your mind, if no word comes, then just put a generic word. B for ball, B for basket, B for bus. It's bus driver, so he knows about the bus, something like that. And then C and D and all those things like that. Go up till Z. Occupy these 2 pages with these alphabet and words. So now in this, as we are, after you introduce your students to the words, then it's time to form sentences, and the next video is going to discuss how he can form sentences using the table approach. That's the hallmark about this course series, the table approach. That's what you're going to see in the next lesson. But here right now you're making this jump from the alphabet to the word. So you're jumping your students from the alphabet to the word level, and then in the next lesson he's going to jump from the word till the sentence level. Alright, so that's how things are going to move, and basically like how you want to teach them the alphabets and words. I just gave you one of the approaches in which you use familiar words for teaching the alphabets. And if you have any other approach in mind, please write that down. Probably you could just mention a section here and write your ideas about teaching alphabets and simple derived words. And then you go here, whatever is there in your mind, you go here and just write that down. Okay. So that would be really helpful for you as a teacher, because you're able to teach the student alphabets and words in your own, in your own way. But this is just one of the approaches that I've given you. So your first lesson when you're going to meet the student is to ensure that he knows the alphabet. If he doesn't know, then this is the approach you got to follow to teach him the alphabets. Alright, so that's where it ends so your second and third page are just going to be these alphabets and words, and that's where I will end this video. Okay, thank you.